Hello and welcome back at another episode of the sound design series for the Korg Wavestate Native. In this episode we are going to recreate the key elements of the song Equinoxe 7 from Jean-Michel Jarre. So let's get started. The first thing we are going to do is to recreate that iconic bass line from that song. So let's load up an init performance. Init. Now we have the standard sound again. The bass line is a rhythmic pattern of 8 slots, so let's set the timing lane into tempo, no crossfading, and set the speed to 16th. Create 8 slots in the timing lane. And set the loop points accordingly. So when we are going to play it now, let's load up one sample. Yeah, we have the pattern running now. And for this we also need 8 pitch slots. And set the loop points and end points accordingly. So now we have to select a sample for that, and we are going to use a standard synth bass sample. It's in the synth category and it's called synth bass 1. And when we play it now, let's set the pitch to -1. You can do that in the synthesis tab. And let's add an envelope for that for the cutoff filter. Around 2.4 seconds. And we have to set the retrigger to step pulse. And we use the filter MS20 low pass filter to give it a little bite. If this goes too quickly for you, please watch the tutorials where this is all explained in a very slow pace. So, because I'm assuming now that this is common knowledge. Okay, we have created the synth bass sound now. And the only thing we need to do now is to create that pattern that is used in Equinoxe 7. And that has 2 rest points in this timing lane, because now we have 8 notes for that pattern. But there are rests in that, and that's on position 4. So set that type to rest so that it doesn't play this note, and we also have to do this for slot 7. Okay, that's the pattern, and there are also some things like this, 12 notes in it, and that's on slot 3, so set that to an octave higher, slot 6, and slot 8. Now we are starting to recognize that pattern now. So let's fine tune the sound. Okay. Add a small reverb on top of that. Let's use one of the presets. Floating, for instance. And there's a lot of bass in that reverb, and we don't want that. We only want a little bit of air into that. So we are going to set the crossover and the bass gain to fix that. So lower the bass gain to -12. Set the crossover to around 2300, something like this. Yeah, that's much better. That makes it less muddy. Now, in the original pattern, we don't only hear this, but there's also something they play one note lower to create that specific effect, like this. See this? And then we are going to hit that note. But that doesn't work now because it isn't a monophonic, a mono sound. So let's activate that and activate the legato so that we can use that. And to avoid that it's restarted, you also have to activate the sync notes. You see what I'm doing here? So now we have recreated the bass line from Equinoxe 7. So let's create a pad sound for that. Let's load up one of the factory sounds to start with. And I think Beauty Pad is a good starting point. Yes, but we don't want a bass line there, so we are going to say, hey, we only need it to see, well, F, for instance. Now we can play this. And when we hit the G note, you won't hear anything, so it's going to here. So let's set the strings to that part. So now we have created a split keyboard in this way. And we are going to modify the pad sound to make it more Jean-Michel. So I like the programming of this sound. But I don't really like the sound for that specific song. So we are going to change the sample, and we can look for it in the library, but that takes a long time. So there's a little trick where you can do that much quicker. Select the sample slot and click this drop-down list. And now we can, well, just basically search and try all kind of different things out quickly to hear what fits the song. Yeah, this is a nice basic sound. Let's use that one. And for Jean-Michel Jarre, we are going to use an effect that's called an phaser. So let's load up an phaser, for instance the orange phase. And the default is fine for this, so let's load it up. Now let's add a different curve so that it comes in more quickly, about 1.3 seconds. Yeah, nice, but give it a little bit of delay. We use the HPF 118 dot for this. So if you combine the two now together, So it would be nice to add a drum sound also to it. So let's use layer D for that. And we go to the drums category and use something like auto techno heads as a base starting point. Yeah, very nice. And we are going to modify this so that there is also a kick in this. I've synced it now to the host, which is set to 80 BPM, but in the sound itself we also set it to 80, so that if we are going to use it on the hardware wave state, that it's also directly in the correct tempo. So let's use 4 of the sample elements for this drum sound. It's already programmed in there. So one thing to keep in mind is that it's using the shape now, and you see the shape that it controls the volume. If we don't activate the volume, it would sound quite different. And I like this. I like this curve for the volume, for the hi-hats and the snares. So let's copy that 4 times. But for the first one, we want to kick completely open. So now we have the first slot is an open volume shape, and the other 3 are a saw down shape. So one thing that is important is that every slot now has a gate assigned to it, and that's set to 38. So we have to set that to 100 to hear the full sample in effect. Now you hear that hi-hat, open hi-hat completely. So let's load up a kick sample for that. When you click here, you can also search in the libraries in your sample library. It goes way quicker than the other method. I'm looking for all the kicks in the system and disable the category because I want to see every category. And now I can see all the kicks in the system. Let's use the kick trends for that one. And now we have added a drum to the bass line and the synthesizer pad. So we are basically there now. Well, and so on. Of course, you can do a lot of modifications now to the bassline to make it better sounding, and yeah, there's a lot of work to do with the pad sound. But basically, this is the technique to recreate those key elements from songs you like. So I hope this helps, and see you in the next tutorial.